What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Sam here to break down the NFL Week 5 Sunday main slate. Was originally 12 games. It's only 10 now because of COVID. Hopefully those games will be played on Monday and Tuesday, especially that Tennessee game for my fantasy football purposes. That would be huge for me. But if you're new to this channel, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, turn on the notification bell. All those things really help me out, help me grow a ton. They're very, very helpful. We've had a lot of growth throughout NFL, NASCAR, NBA season. NBA probably going to come to an end today if the Lakers win. That's sad, but, you know, got NFL now. College basketball's coming up. It's like my favorite sport, so excited for all that stuff. So please just help me out with that. If you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. For only $10 a month, you are going to get articles for every single position every single week, along with articles for all the Thursday, Monday night, and Sunday night showdowns. Then you're going to get all of my injury notes. You're also going to get my top stack rankings and everything. So, and there's a little bit more over there. So just be sure to go check that out. I'm going to try to make this video a little bit quicker than last week's. I mean, right now, just with school, I haven't been able to get out a video for every single position, but that should change next week. Next week, we'll go back to being able to get a video out for every single position, along with cash videos and stack videos and injury videos. So I'll be sure to have that for you guys starting next week. But, you know, I only be able to make one this week, just going to go over like my favorite plays on every single position. I'm going to try to make it a little bit quicker than last week's because I think it was like an hour long, and I don't think any of you want to sit here for an hour and listen to me talk about sports. So I don't want to talk for an hour about sports either. So like we're gonna get into this right now, and we're gonna start off the quarterbacks, and we're gonna start off Deshaun Watson, who is my favorite quarterback play of the entire week. $6,900 facing off the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are going to be limited on defensive players right now, and that defense already sucks. So when we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchups, overall it's going to be a positive matchup for Houston Texans, and you don't get that often for the Houston Texans offensive line. Like, it's bad. Outside of Larry Tunsil, that rest of the offensive line's horrible. For wide receivers, they got Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Randall Cobb. They're going to be going up against, as of now, Trey Herndon, C.J. Henderson, and D.J. Hayden. Now, C.J. Henderson and D.J. Hayden are questionable right now. If they were to miss, that would be an obvious bump to the wide receivers, although D.J. Hayden's kind of trash. But it would still be a bump to the wide receivers. And then also Josh Allen, one of the defensive linemen, is questionable as well. So that's their best pass rusher. So that would be a bigger boost to the offense versus defensive line if they were to miss. When we go look at overall matchups, I mean, the wide receivers grade out amazingly against these defensive backs in Jacksonville. Jordan Akins is a tight end, but he's not really utilized too much. I don't really worry about him as much. When we go look at the safeties, you have Josh Jones and Andrew Winger. And Andrew Winger is a pretty solid safety, but still going to be a positive grade. Overall, it's going to be a positive matchup for Deshaun Watson here. The line in this game is 54.5. It is the second highest total game on this slate. And the Jacksonville Jaguars allowed the 13th most points to quarterbacks on the year, and they've given up 30 real points in the last 3 games. So this defense is not good. This is a spot where I just want to attack Jacksonville from everywhere. You're going to see in this, as this video goes along, I want to attack this game from as many spots as I can, and we'll start off Deshaun Watson. Love stacking him. I think he's good for cash. I just think this defense is not good. We haven't seen Deshaun have a really good game yet, so he's a little bit cheaper than some of these like Mahomes guys, Dak Prescott, Lamar. So, and he should be kind of up there with those guys, I mean, in theory. So I think this is the game where he explodes. So I really do like going to Deshaun Watson. Next, we have Patrick Mahomes at $7,700 going against the Las Vegas Raiders. We go look at their offensive versus defensive line matchup. It is going to be a positive matchup for Kansas City Chiefs. Actually, the most positive one out of these guys I'm going to talk about today. The wide receivers for Kansas City Chiefs are going to be Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Tyreek Hill coming out of the slot, and then Mecole Hardman also gets some usage. We go look at the opposing cornerbacks they're going to be going against. We have Trayvon Mullen, Nevin Lawson, and LaMarcus Joyner. That's going to be an overall positive matchup for the receivers, but not as positive as you would hope. I mean, Tyreek Hill is a really good matchup, but like Trayvon Mullen's been pretty solid, so that's a kind of tougher one for Sammy Watkins. When we go look at tight ends, you have Travis Kelce going up against Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton, and Nicholas Morrow, and that is going to be a very, very, very positive matchup for him as well. And Jonathan Abram and Eric Harris are the 2 safeties, and that's going to be a positive matchup for Mahomes. So overall, it's going to be a really positive matchup for Patrick Mahomes here. This is the highest total game on the slate. We've seen Patrick Mahomes just dominate the Raiders over the past few years. I mean, he just has had some absolutely massive games. I mean, I'll never forget last year, they were like losing to Oakland when they were in Oakland in the first quarter, and then Mahomes went out and had like 300 yards in the second quarter, and it was just like, I mean, what are you going to do about that? So, I think Mahomes has a really good game here. This is a game that, I mean, it's probably not going to shoot out, but like it's two teams that could put up some points. So, definitely like to go to Mahomes here. I think this is a spot that I definitely like to attack. Matt Ryan is the next player I'm interested in at $6,100 going against the Carolina Panthers. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchups, it is going to be a positive matchup for Atlanta, another team that you don't really see getting that offensive line getting a lot of positive matchups, but this Carolina defensive line is horrible. We'll get into that one more when we talk about the running backs. Julio Jones is right now questionable. If he were to miss, the wide receivers would be Calvin Ridley and then either Olamide Zaccheaus or Christian Blake starting at number 2, and then Russell Gage. So that's something to keep an eye on for injuries. We'll talk about more of that when we get to the receivers. Then you got Dante Jackson, who's actually not been bad this year. Roswell Douglas and Jeremy Chin are the corners. We have Hayden Hurst, the tight end, going against Shaq Thompson. Tahir Whitehead going to be a very good matchup for him there. And then Justin Burris and Trey Boston are your safeties. Overall, it's going to be a positive matchup for Matt Ryan. The one thing I will say is Panthers defense, fantasy-wise, hasn't been bad this year. They're 28th best defense against quarterbacks right now. 53.5 total line on this game. It's the 4th highest total game on the slate. So definitely like going to Matt Ryan here. I think this is a spot there he should excel. Definitely going to be a popular cash quarterback play. I don't know if he's going to be my cash quarterback yet. Still working on some cash builds, but definitely like him in for cash, and I like him stacking with Ridley if Julio plays, Julio, of course, and then maybe Hayden Hurst. So I think Matt Ryan's a good option on the slate. Daniel Jones, $5,400 going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I think this is just, we're getting to the point where we're just going to have to play players against the Cowboys all year long. Their defense is absolutely horrid. They're just bad. They're really bad, man. They're on pace to be like one of the worst defense, if not the worst defense of all time. When we go look at the offense versus defensive line, it's going to be a slightly negative matchup for the New York Giants. New York Giants aren't good either. They're just not good anywhere. Darius Slayton, CJ Board, and Golden Tate are the receivers for Daniel Jones. Going up against Trayvon Diggs, Darrell Worley, and Jordan Lewis, and that's going to be a positive matchup. Whenever you get a positive matchup for those receivers, just take advantage of it because those receivers really aren't that good outside Slayton. Slayton's pretty solid. When we go look at tight ends, you have Evan Ingram going up against Jalen Smith and Joe Thomas. That's going to be a positive matchup for him. Darian Thompson and Xavier Woods are the safeties. So overall, it's going to be a positive match for Daniel Jones. They're not favored in this game. Jones is only 5,400, and the Cowboys allowed 6 most points to quarterbacks this year. Should have been more. Cleveland, Baker only put up 15, but that team put up 49 points. The Dallas Cowboys are allowing 36 points per game right now, and that's the most ever, period. So, Daniel Jones is in a spot where I'm a Giants fan, and if he sucks here, oh my God. You need to get Trevor then. But Daniel Jones, I think he's in a good spot. He's really cheap. If you want to go there for cash, I think it's a little bit risky just because it is Daniel Jones. I don't think you need to go down there this week into the super cheap quarterbacks, but I think he is a fine cash option if you just want to pay for more studs elsewhere. But he's in a really good spot, so I think he's definitely someone that I do not hate attacking at all. Gardner Minshew going against the Houston Texans at $6,200. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup, it's going to be, I believe, a really positive matchup for Jacksonville here. That Houston defensive line's bad. Houston's also another team that's just bad everywhere in defense. They have a good safety in Justin Reed, and then they have J.J. Watt, and that's really it. The rest of that team's not good. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault Jr., and Keelan Cole are the wide receivers for Gardner Minshew. They're going to be going up against Bradley Roby, Vernon Hargraves, and John Reed. That's going to be the most positive matchup for the receivers I got. They're not good, man. Those corners suck. Tyler Eifert gets to go up against Zach Cunningham and Bernard Drake McKinney. That's going to be a positive matchup for him. And then Eric Murray and Justin Reed are the safeties. Another positive matchup. So, yeah, Gardner Minshew grades out really, really well for me. The Texans, overall, their defense has been really, really bad. But they have only allowed 21st most points to quarterbacks. But I'm not really too worried about that. This is a game of 54.5 game total. This defense is not good. I definitely want to get some Gardner Minshew, stacking with DJ Chark, stacking with Laviska Shenault, maybe even get some Keelan Cole action there. Eifert maybe in a little bit, but definitely Gardner Minshew is definitely someone I like. I think he's fine for cash if you want to go there as well. It's just in a high-scoring game, they're going to be playing from behind. They're supposed to be playing from behind, but Jacksonville's a better record than Houston, so maybe they're going to be the ones playing from ahead. But Gardner Minshew definitely someone to have some good interest in. Up next, we have Derek Carr going against the Kansas City Chiefs. We already talked about Mahomes in this game. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup, it's going to be a slightly negative match for the Raiders. Their Raiders' offensive line is kind of beat up. When it's not beat up, it's pretty good, but it's beat up right now. Richie Incognito's hurt. So, there's just another injury on that offensive line. I can't remember the name right now, but, it's just a tough spot. You got to go up against, Chris Jones and stuff. And obviously, Chris Jones is questionable, so if he misses this week, then that's going to be a nice bump for that offensive line for the Raiders, so be sure to look out for that. The wide receivers are still hurt for the Raiders as well. So, I mean, right now I have Zay Jones, Nelson Aguilar, and Hunter Renfrow as the wide receivers. Now, if Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards are back, that's obviously a huge bump to this offense, and I like them more. The cornerbacks, Bashad Breeland is back, and then Travarius Ward and Tyrann Mathieu are the other two corners. Now, Bashad Breeland's missed the first 4 games because of suspension, but he was the best corner on this team a year ago. I expect him to slide in as the number 1 corner this game, and he's pretty solid cornerback. Nothing special, but he's the best one on his team, even though they've looked pretty. Jerry Sneed and Rashard Fenton have looked pretty solid to start the year, but I'm pretty sure Bashad Breeland slots in here and do pretty well. Then you have Darren Waller going up against Ben Neiman, Anthony Hitchens, and Damian Wilson. That's going to be a positive matchup for him. And then Tyrann Mathieu and Daniel Sorensen are these safeties. Overall, it's going to be a positive matchup for Derek Carr. The highest game total on the slate. They're going to be playing from behind, so I like that. The one problem is the Chiefs' defense has been pretty solid against quarterbacks. 29th best defense in the league against quarterbacks as of now, but I don't think it's as good as the numbers say. I mean, they have looked good. I will say they've looked good. Watching them, they've looked good, but like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's just a game where it's hard for me to not say I want to get to a quarterback in the highest total game that's going to be playing from behind. And Derek Carr's been throwing a deep ball this year. Like, he doesn't usually do that. I mean, he's still not throwing it a ton, but he's throwing it. So I don't think Derek Carr's a bad spot here. He's cheap. He's only 5,300. I probably want to go there for cash. If you're going for cheap quarterback, I'd favor Jones than Carr, but I think Carr's an interesting stacks in terms of like Darren Waller and then if like Ruggs plays. So, but yeah, I think he's fine. Probably my least favorite out of all these quarterbacks I'm going to talk about, but just it's hard for me not to talk about a guy in the highest total game who's playing from behind. So, Derek Carr, interested. Teddy Bridgewater, $5,900 going against the Atlanta Falcons. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup, it is going to be a slightly negative matchup for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, Grady Jarrett creates problems in Atlanta, and I mean, offensive line for Carolina isn't that good, but nothing I'm really too worried about. Now, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel are the wide receivers, and they're going to go up against Isaiah Oliver, Kendall Sheffield, and Bleedy Red Wilson. Now, A.J. Terrell is back from COVID, so I don't know if well, not officially, but he might be back. That's the rookie out of Clemson, and honestly, none of their corners are good at all, so it's just a great matchup for these wide receivers, as you see, one of the best matchups overall for me. Then you have Ian Thomas going against Deion Jones, Michael Walker, and Foey City. Oh, I can't even say that name. That's going to be a negative matchup, but like Ian Thomas really isn't utilized in this game, by this team a lot. Jalen Hawkins, Sherrod Neesman are the two safeties because Keanu Neal is out and Ricardo Allen is out for Atlanta, so that's tough. That's going to be a really positive matchup there. Now, so we go look at Atlanta. They have allowed the 3rd most points to quarterbacks. They're a high-scoring team. Really bad defense. They're a lot like the Cowboys, just offense isn't as good. 53.5 game total. Carolina's not favored. So you got a quarterback playing from behind against Atlanta, so I do like that a lot. I think Teddy Bridgewater stacks with like more, just more, and Robbie Anderson, really. Maybe if you want to throw in Curtis Samuel, and if you want to take a shot on Mike Davis, but probably not. So I do like going there. Up next, we got Nick Mullins going against the Miami Dolphins, $5,300, or Jimmy Garoppolo, whoever starts. Right now, Garoppolo is still questionable, so whoever starts at quarterback, and it could be C.J. Beathard as well. Whoever's the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers going against Miami Dolphins is really what we're talking about here. When we go look at the matchup, it's going to be overall a slightly positive matchup against the Miami defensive line, but Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Kendrick Bourne are the wide receivers going against Xavier Howard, Noah Igbun, I still can't say that guy's name, and Nick Needham. Now that's a very positive matchup for those wide receivers. Now Brandon Ayuk, man, he had one of the best plays of the season against Philly on Sunday night last week. With that hurdle, that was just insane. That was an awesome play. So definitely like that. George Kittle then as well going against Landon Roberts, Kamu Griger-Hill, and Jerome Baker. That's a spot I really like. I mean, look at that. You don't get a 43% positive matchup ever. Then you got Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain are the safeties. So this overall makes Nick Mullins have a great positive matchup. The Miami Dolphins are the 5th worst team against quarterbacks in the league at the moment. Nick Mullins, love it. Jimmy Garoppolo, love it. If you want to go to these guys for cash, they don't throw the ball as much. They're going to be running offense, but I think tournament stacks with these guys are very in play, and it's not going to be a stack that people are going to want to go to. But if you want to go to a Mullins, but whoever's starting at quarterback, and then like Kittle, and then either Deebo or Brandon Ayuk, I like it. And then we'll close this one out with Dak Prescott, who looks to be on pace to lead the league in passing yards this year at $7,400, going against the New York Giants. The offensive versus defensive line matchup is going to be slightly positive. I mean, this Cowboys offensive line is not what it used to be. And the Giants defensive line really isn't horrible. It's probably the one strength outside of James Bradbury on his defense. Amari Cooper, Michael Galvin, CeeDee Lamb are the wide receivers. They're going to go up against James Bradbury, Isaac Yiadom, and Darnay Holmes. Now, James Bradbury is a very good corner, but these other two are trash. So it's going to be overall a positive matchup for those wide receivers. You have Dalton Schultz sliding in at tight end, going up against Blake Martinez and Devontae Downs. That's going to be a positive matchup for him. And then Logan Ryan and Julian Love are the two safeties. That's going to be another positive matchup. So overall, it's just about a positive matchup for Dak in a 54 game total. Third highest game total on the slate is this New York Giants Dallas Cowboys game. Cowboys should probably be playing from head because the Giants suck. So I mean, I'm pretty much at this point where I'm just suggesting Dak every week because he's just throwing so much. So definitely like going to Dak Prescott this week. But I think that's really it for the quarterbacks. So let's get into the running back. All right, and here we are for the running backs. And the first running back we're going to start out is Joe Mixon, $6,300 going against the Baltimore Ravens. And now a general rule that I usually have when playing DraftKings is don't play anybody against the Ravens. But I think this is actually a spot where it's going to be obviously very low owned because it's not, and most people agree with me on that and don't play people against the Ravens. And I mean, I think we can get a little bit of leverage here. The offense versus defensive line matchup, it's not going to look good. It's just not. I'm gonna tell you right there, it's a negative spot. I mean, I expected that. I don't care about Postmates. It's the overall line in this game is 50.5, and they're not favored. Like, it's not a super high game total, and they're not favored. And the Ravens are the 23rd best defense against running backs in the league. Yeah, nothing looks great for Joe Mixon. I'm not saying he's a great play. He's not a good cash play at all. He's a tournament option only, but he's averaging 19.5 or 19.25 rushes per game, and he's averaging 3.75 targets per game. And he saw 6 targets last week, and he's also getting all the usage in the red zone. So all the stats that are really, really good that we look for running backs, Joe Mixon's getting it. But some of them, I mean, not all of them. Like, the stats that you want to look for, he's getting them. But the metrics from the game, not necessarily. So Joe Mixon, for me, like, these are the type of players when they're getting all this stuff that I don't ever just fade out of my lineups. But probably not going to be a top-tier option and only want to go to him in tournaments. Definitely not someone I want to get to in cash games. Kareem Hunt is up next, going up against the Indianapolis Colts, $6,500. Now, Nick Chubb is on the IR for at least 3 weeks, but it's probably going to be more like 6. We go look at the offense versus defensive line matchup. It is going to be a positive matchup for the Browns. They have one of, if not the best offensive line in the game right now. Really, really liking the way that offensive line is playing. The Browns are not favored in a 47 game total. It's a very low game total. And the Indianapolis Colts are another defense that's very, very good. 30th best defense against running backs as of right now. They've looked like a top tier defense overall in the league right now. So that's a tough spot for Kareem Hunt. But the thing about Kareem Hunt is I think he's going to get, I mean, he only saw 11 carries last week, and Dearness Johnson was getting a ton of looks, but, like, I don't think that's going to be a usual thing because it's Kareem Hunt versus Dearness Johnson. Kareem Hunt, like, Kareem Hunt's really good. Like, I mean, he's gotten his, not, like, this year coming into the season, everyone's like, oh, he's just a pass catching back. Well, like, Kareem Hunt, like, a few years ago, literally led the league in rushing when he was in Kansas City. Like, he can be a bell cow. I think he's going to see more like what Nick Chubb was seeing, almost like 20 carries a game. And, I mean, he's in a spot where he also has pass catching usage. He's going to get targets. Didn't see any last week, but 6, 2, and 3 in the first 3 weeks. He's going to see usage in the passing game. So I think Kareem Hunt's fine. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership just because of this matchup, but if he is going to start getting ownership, he's probably one to fade because that is a really tough matchup. But Kareem Hunt, definitely someone I still have interest in. James Conner, $6,900 going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. When we go look at the offense versus defensive line matchup, it is going to be a slightly negative matchup. I mean, we know Philly for years has had really, really great defense. Only a 44.5 game total. Great rushing defense. Their passing defense has been horrible. Great rushing defense. Only a 44.5 game total, but they are at home and they are favored. I mean, on the year, I mean, Philly's allowed 18th most points to running backs. It's not great, but, like, it's not bad either. It's not the Colts or the Ravens. So, when we go look at the usage that James Conner has been getting, I don't really know why Week 4's isn't there, but, oh, wait, yes, I do. God, they didn't play last week. All right. Jeez, okay. Averaging 17 touches or carries on the ground, and then also averaging 3.66 targets through the air. That's gonna make James Conner average like 20.66 touches on the ground and through the air. So James Conner looks like a pretty good spot. He's got the volume. Matchup isn't great. I mean, he's an okay cash play if you want to get there. I think that's fine. Probably some other cash plays I'd rather go to than James Conner, but I do think he's fine for cash. And in tournaments, I love him. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership. He's going to get all the usage, so I think James Conner's a good play in GPPs. David Johnson's $5,200 going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, like I said, on the quarterbacks, I want to attack this game from every spot I can. This is another spot I want to attack them with. The offense versus defensive line matchup is going to be positive for the Houston Texans, and you have a 54.5 total on this game, and the Texans are favored, so David Johnson playing from ahead, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are the seventh worst defense in the league against running backs. When we go look at the usage David Johnson's been getting, Duke Johnson's back now, so Duke Johnson played in week 1 and week 4, so the average between week 1 and week 4 is going to be 13.5 touches on the ground and 3.5 through the air. I wish he'd be getting more usage. I mean, David Johnson's actually like a really good running back. Like, he should be getting more usage. We'll see. There's no Bill O'Brien anymore. See what new, or I think Cornell's running the offense now, what he does. Well, Cornell's running the team. Whoever's the offensive coordinator, I don't even know the name of the offensive coordinator in Houston. But David Johnson, I think he's in a really good spot against Jacksonville. He's too cheap also. I get $5,200. I want to go there. He's fine for cash, fine for tournaments, so definitely like going to that spot. Jonathan Taylor, $6,200 going against the Cleveland Browns. When we go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup, it is actually going to be slightly negative. Browns' run defense has been very, very good this year. 21st ranked run defense in the league. They're 47 game total, but they are favored. The Colts should be able to get out to a pretty early lead here, and I think Jonathan Taylor could be in a very solid spot. When we go look at attempts on the ground, this is week 2 through week 4 in this average at 18.66. Now, I know Jordan Wilkins and Naeem Hines have been getting usage, but he still had 17 carries last week. He's still getting a ton of usage, and if they're supposed to be favored, that's going to help out as well. He's right now averaging 20 touches per game, so I do like that for Jonathan Taylor. In a spot where he's favored, $6,200, I think he's fine. Probably wouldn't go there for cash just because there is some threats of other guys, and it's not the best matchup in the world, but for tournaments, definitely like Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's going to get to ownership this week. James Robinson, the other side of that game. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Why isn't it? Okay. There, fixed. $6,700 for James Robinson going against the Houston Texans. We have the offensive versus defensive line matchup. It's going to be a slightly positive matchup for James. Actually, a pretty positive matchup for James Robinson here. The Houston run defense sucks. Like, it's just not good at all. They're the 10th worst defense against running backs in the league right now. 54.5 game total. They're not favored in this game. Jacksonville isn't, but we've seen Robinson get usage in the passing game, so we'll go look at right now. Averaging 15 touches on the ground with 3.75 through the air, so 18.75 touches per game right now for James Robinson. Should see about that, and for his price against the Houston Texans, definitely like that. I think he's okay for cash. Probably want to go some other spots for cash. I think there's a clear 3 to 4, maybe 5 running backs for cash this week, and I don't think James Robinson's one of them. So, I mean, if you want to go there, that's fine, but I don't think that's really the spot. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, $6,800, but I do love James Robinson in tournaments. Absolutely love him. I'm going to have a ton of him this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, $6,800 going against the Las Vegas Raiders. When you go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchups, it is going to be overall positive matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have the highest total game on the slate, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is favored, and it's the worst run defense in the league at the moment. The Raiders have allowed the most points to running backs in the league so far this year, so a very, very good spot for Clyde. When we go look at the usage, he's been getting an average of 17.75 carries per game and an average of 4.75 targets per game, so he's getting usage in the passing game and on the ground. He's getting usage everywhere. Home favorite running back. Definitely love going to Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. I think he's in a very, very good spot. Definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. Ezekiel Elliott is only $7,800 going against the New York Giants. Ezekiel Elliott's going to be someone I'm going to continue to just say to target every single week because, like he's just too cheap for the usage he's getting. We go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup. It is going to be a negative matchup. I'm telling you, this Dallas line isn't that good anymore. It's a 54 game total, which is the 3rd highest total on the slate, and they are favored against the Giants. That should mean more rushes for him. The Giants are the 14th worst defense against running backs right now. When we go, he's averaging 17.5 carries per game, along with 7.5 targets per game. Zeke's getting ridiculous usage, 25 touches per game. He's just way too cheap at $7,800 against New York Giants. I mean, he's probably the most popular running back. Maybe Mike Davis is more popular. I mean, I think they're probably going to be the most 2 popular running backs on the slate. But Zeke's someone I just want to get exposure to everywhere, cash, tournaments, everything. So, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott, love him this week. Miles Sanders I put on here because I want to say not to play him. I don't want to play him against Pittsburgh. $6,500. Pittsburgh might have the best run defense in the league. When we go look at the offense versus defense line matchup, it's going to be horribly negative. They're 31st best defense against running backs in the league right now, so 2nd best against running backs. Philly's not favored here. It's a low game total. Nothing just looks good for Miles Sanders. So pretty much I just put him on a video just to tell you not to play him. Todd Gurley's $5,700 going against the Carolina Panthers, who have been a team we've just pretty much been playing running backs against for a while now. We go look at the offensive versus defensive line matchup. It is going to be a positive matchup for Atlanta. Carolina's the 4th worst defense against running backs this year, and they would be number 1 if Kenyon Drake wasn't garbage and just sucked last week. So Todd Gurley, definitely someone I want to have some exposure to. 53.5 game total, they're favored. He is averaging 16.25 carries per game, along with 2 targets per game at 18.25 per game. Now I will say Todd Gurley has really not looked good. Like, he's getting touchdowns he's getting the usage inside of 5, so that's good. He's getting the looks we want for running backs, but like, man, he has not looked good at all as a running back this year. Not getting the points in the usage at all. It just hasn't been good. Not a ton of usage in the passing game. So Gurley, not someone I want for cash at all, even though he is playing the Panthers. I don't want to go there. Now, Mike Davis at 6,400 is definitely someone I want to go to. I think he's a great play this week, and I think everyone's going to play him this week. He's right now my highest projected owned guy. When we go look at the offense versus defensive line matchup, it's going to be positive for the Carolina Panthers. 53.5 game total for Carolina, and they're not favored, but Mike Davis gets usage in the passing game, so I'm not too worried about it. Atlanta has only allowed a 26 most amount of points to running backs on the year, and that is because they're always pretty much playing from ahead. Like, teams just have to throw on them. Dallas had to throw on them. Chicago had to throw on them. Green Bay didn't, but Green Bay had a pretty good game. That's pretty much the only good running back game with Jamal Williams combined with Aaron Jones. Had a really good game on the ground. But that's the one thing I will say maybe to be a little cautious about is Atlanta's going to be playing from ahead, and maybe he won't get as much usage, but still not really worried about it. In weeks 3 and 4, he's averaged 14.5 carries per game, but he's also averaged 7.5 targets per game. Now, that's the one that really sticks out to me is the targets per game. If they're going to be playing from behind and he's going to get usage in the passing game, I think that's fine. Kenyon Drake I put on here because he's garbage. I just want to talk horrible about him. And as I just looked at my phone before I started recording this, that game might not happen anymore. Someone on the Jets tested positive for Corona, so we'll see what's going to happen with that game. That game might get moved to Monday or Tuesday night as well. This might turn into a 9-game slate, which is going to be even more interesting. So $5,700 Kenyon Drake is I don't really want to go there because he's just been so bad. I mean, he's getting the usage, but man, he's been bad. Jared McKinnon's $5,800. Now, Raheem Mostert is questionable. If Raheem Mostert comes back, then I don't really want to play McKinnon at all. But at $5,800, Jared McKinnon is interesting. When we go look at the offense versus defensive line matchup, it is going to be a overall positive matchup for the 49ers here. It's 52 game total, and they are favored. The Miami Dolphins have allowed the 6th most amount of points to running backs this year. In the 2 weeks without Mostert, he's averaging 14 carries per game and 6 targets per game, so averaging 20 touches per game right now is Jared McKinnon, so in a very, very good spot. He's definitely someone I want to go to. But I think that's all for the running backs, so let's go ahead and get into the wide receivers. All right, now we're here to talk about the wide receivers, and we'll start out with Marquise Brown, $6,300, playing the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to get to go up against, the individual cornerback match for Marquise Brown's going to be against William Jackson II, who's a pretty solid cornerback. I mean, he's been doing pretty good this year. Pretty much like the one bright spot on that Cincinnati defense is William Jackson, so it's a kind of tough matchup. The 2 safeties for Marquise Brown are Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Obviously, Lamar's throwing the ball. When we go look at the overall matchup for the wide receivers, it is going to be a positive matchup for Marquise Brown here. This is a game where they are favored in a 50.5 game total. 15th worst passing defense is the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's going against the 70th ranked cornerback, so that's actually really good. Like, I have it so that like the highest ranked ones are ranked higher up. Like that's not a good spot for Marquise Brown. When we go look at the volume, though, he's averaging 6.5 targets per game, so he's getting the volume, and he's getting the ADP. He's one of the top 5 in air yards right now in the league. That big explosion game for Marquise Brown is coming. It could be this week, but I think a lot of people want it to be this week, but I don't know if it is, because if he's going to be getting covered by William Jackson, it's actually a pretty tough matchup, so I don't know if that's really the spot I want to go to, but definitely for tournaments. Like, I love Marquise Brown for tournaments every single week because he's got that explosion ceiling, so definitely want to get there in tournaments. Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster for the Pittsburgh Steelers going against Philly. Deontay Johnson is going to get Darius Slay, who's looked pretty solid this year, and then Juju Smith-Schuster is going to get Nickel Roby-Coleman, who has not looked that solid this year, who has looked solid in the past, but a 44.5 game total. They are favored in this game, but the volume is going to be there for both these guys. 11.5 targets on average for Deontay Johnson. and 7 on average for Juju Smith-Schuster, which is a little shocking coming into the year, but it's really only a 2-game sample for both those guys with both of them playing, so we'll see what happens this week. I think both are definitely in play. I like going to both of them for some value. For Deontay Johnson and Juju's just a good play. Definitely want to get some exposure to in tournaments. Cash, probably not. Maybe Deontay Johnson and cash, but probably want to go to Juju and cash. Brandon Cooks, who put up a goose egg last week, and then Will Fuller against Jacksonville. Brandon Cooks is like $4,100. He is so cheap. Such a good value, in my opinion. Right now, I have Will Fuller going against Trey Herndon, and I have Brandon Cooks going against C.J. Henderson. But Henderson and DJ Hayden, the slot corner, are both questionable to play if they don't play. Brandon Cooks is going to have a much better matchup. Trey Herndon's trash, so Will Fuller looks to be an absolute smash spot. If we go look at targets on average, Brandon Cooks is only averaging 4.3 targets on average, but Will Fuller is averaging 7.33. Very involved in his passing game is Will Fuller, so he's definitely someone I like getting to. I've loved giving to him all year. I've loved getting to him in season long this year, and he's really paying off for me right now. Brandon Cooks is going to be more of a deep guy, so definitely some 2 options to stack here with Deshaun Watson, I think. So definitely like going there. DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault for the Jacksonville Jaguars on the other side of this game, going against the Houston Texans, have a good offense versus defensive matchup. DJ Chark is going to get to match up 1v1 with Bradley Roby, who people seem to think is some elite cornerback, especially the guys at ESPN, because every single week I have someone going against Bradley Roby in fantasy football. They're like, he's a tough shadow matchup. Well, not really. I mean, he's a decent corner, but he's not anything like special to worry about. Like, I'd rather be more worried about like a Jalen Ramsey or a Richard Sherman who's not even playing, or a Gilmore, but Bradley Roby's really not as good as everyone thinks he is, and then Laviska Shenault gets to go up against Vernon Hargreaves, baby. This is the one. It's Laviska Shenault week, baby. I mean, he's going to explode this week. It's just going to happen. They're not favored in this game. Going to be playing from behind. The 17th ranked defense against wide receivers at the moment, so definitely like going there for sure. When we go look at the volume, DJ Chark's averaging only 5.3 targets per game, and Chenault's averaging 4.66, but we saw Chark finally get more involved last week of 9 targets after only seeing 3 and 4 in the first 2 weeks, so I think that could be somewhere to go with. I mean, DJ Chark's a really good wide receiver, just talent-wise, he should be getting the ball thrown to more. He's in a good matchup. Definitely love him for tournaments, definitely love him in stacks, bringbacks, just anywhere you want to play these guys. If you want to get to him in cash, I think Chenault's a very good cash play this week. Chark, maybe not as much. I think there's better guys with more volume you can get in that price range, but Laviska Shenault for cash is a great play in my opinion, so definitely like going there. Up next, we have Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins for the Kansas City Chiefs going against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a positive offense versus defensive line matchup. They are favored in the highest total game on a slate. Sammy Watkins is going to have a kind of tough matchup against Trayvon Mullen, but Tyreek Hill is probably mostly going to get LaMarcus Joyner, who has not looked very good this year. They're a 16th ranked defense against wide receivers. They're a favorite team. It's a highest total game on the entire slate. When we go look at the volume, Tyreek Hill is averaging 7.25 targets per game, and Sammy Watkins averaging 6.75. The thing about Tyreek Hill that's a little bit different this year is he's getting usage in the red zone. We didn't really see that a lot. He's usually more of just a deep guy. But, I mean, Tyreek Hill is always going to be in play for me in tournaments because we know the explosion games just are there for him. And against the Raiders, who he's exploded against in the past, I like going there. I think Sammy Watkins is another guy who can just explode. If you're making Mahomes stacks, I'd throw in some Mecole Hardman as well. Probably not DeMarcus Robinson, but Mecole Hardman probably for Mahomes stacks. But definitely like Hill and Watkins. If you want to play Watkins in cash, I think that's an okay play too. But him and Shenault are like the same price, and I'd rather play Shenault. I mean, if you want to play both, I think that's okay too. Especially now Damiere Byrd's not playing on the slate, which kind of sucks, but it hurts for cash, but it's okay. We'll still figure out a way around it. But Tyreek Hill, very good play in tournaments. Probably not the best cash play in my opinion. I don't really ever think Tyreek Hill ever is best cash play. Hunter Renfrow for the Las Vegas Raiders going against the Kansas City Chiefs. This one's not going to grade out well, but the Raiders are playing from behind. It's the best defense against against receivers in the league. Hunter Renfrow's going to be in the slot going against Tyrann Mathieu for most of the game. If I'm just playing out the slot, he's going to be going against a lot of Tyrann Mathieu. Maybe someone Jerry Sneed or Rashad Fenton as well. They're not favored in this game. It's a high total game on the slate. I like to play receivers in high total games that are playing from behind. It's a tough matchup, and especially if Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs miss again, then I'd really like Hunter Renfrow. If those guys play, maybe not as much. With those guys off the field, he's averaging 8 targets per game, so that's really good. So Hunter Renfrow definitely someone I like and who is very much in play. The Dallas Cowboys receivers of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, I will continue to love to target these guys. When we look at on average the overall matchup, it's going to be a positive match for all three of them. High total game. They're all favored in this game. Now, Amari Cooper's got actually is a really tough matchup here against James Bradberry, who's been one of the best corners by PFF all year long. Has looked really good. One of the lone bright spots on this Giants team is James Bradberry. But this is the best wide receiver he's going to be playing against so far. Zero Amari Cooper, a very, very talented wide receiver, one of the best route runners in the league, so we'll see what he can do. Then you got Michael Gallup, who's got an absolutely exceptional matchup against Isaac Yiadom, who is not good, and CeeDee Lamb gets Darnay Holmes, who's also not good. So and Amari Cooper right now is going to be one of my highest projected players on the slate. And if Amari Cooper is getting all that ownership, I think Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb are really good spots to go to. I mean, we know Michael Gallup at this point is pretty much just a boomer bust play because the volume has not been there this year for him. He's still averaging 6 targets per game. Cooper averaging 12.75 and Lamb averaging 7.25. But Michael Gallup is such a deep threat, and when he goes off, and you're going to want him in a tournament lineup. So I think Michael Gallup is definitely my favorite play because I think he's going to be the lowest owned guy, and he's got the best overall offense versus defensive matchup. So I do like going to Michael Gallup a lot. I think he's in a very, very good spot. Darius Slayton on the other side of this game going against the New York Giants, or going against Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys have allowed the second most points to wide receivers in the league this year. It's a positive matchup for him. They're not favored in a high total game. He's going to go up against Trayvon Diggs, who has been horrible this year. He's been playing some good receivers. Darius Slayton probably doesn't match up as well as those guys, but I still don't think Darius Slayton should have too much of a hard time with that matchup. So Darius Slayton definitely someone I like getting some exposure to. We've seen him average 7 targets per game on the year right now, so he should see those 7 targets. Playing from behind maybe even more in a game that's against a really bad defense. I think Darius Slayton at $4,800 is a very good cash play. I think it's a great tournament play. I'm going to have a lot of Darius Slayton this week. He might be my highest owned player if I'm being completely honest. I freaking love going to him this week. I just love the matchup, love the spot, love the game script. So I think Darius Slayton's a very, very good option. Terry McLaurin, 46.5 game total going up against the LA Rams this week. He's got a tough shadow matchup against Jalen Ramsey, so maybe not the best spot for him. They're doing pretty good against wide receivers, 27th ranked defense against wide receivers at the moment, which is really good. He's got an okay offense versus defense matchup, but they are going to be playing from behind. But Terry McLaurin's seeing all the volume here, averaging 11 targets per game. He's their only guy they're throwing the ball to. So yeah, I know he's going to have Jalen Ramsey probably shadowing him the entire game, but he's just getting all the volume. If you want to take some tournament shots on him, I think he's fine, but for the most part, probably not someone I want to get a ton of exposure to. We got the Atlanta Falcons wide receivers with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley right now. Julio Jones is questionable. If he were to miss, then Olamide Zaccheaus is probably the guy who's going to come in, or maybe Christian Blake. One of those two is going to come in and start, and they're going to be really, really cheap values that I think are great for cash. Those are going to be your cash cheap options if Julio Jones misses. But if Julio Jones plays, he's in a very good spot against Carolina. He's going to get Dante Jackson, who is, been torched by Julio in the past. Let's just put it that way. And then Calvin Ridley gets Rasul Douglas, or they might switch. I don't really know at this point who the number one guy is on that team anymore. They both have matchups that should be favorable. They have looked good this year. A 53.5 game total. If you're stacking Matt Ryan and the Falcons, these are the guys to go to. If Olamide Zaccheaus is viable, then yeah, you could go there as well. But these are probably the guys I want to go to the most. We go look at the volume. Julio's only averaging 6.66 targets per game, but he was injured in week 2 and week 4. He didn't even play week 3, so or he played like 1 snap. He played not a lot, but week 1 he saw 12. Calvin Ridley's averaging 10 targets per game. Got absolutely shut down by Jair Alexander last week, but he was a little bit hobbled. But he's good to go this week, I'm pretty sure. So Julio's really the one to look out for on that team. We'll go on the other side of the game where we got Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. 53.5 game total for this game. They're not favored going against Atlanta, who has been very, very good. Bad defense, good team defense to target. Robbie Anderson gets to go up against, what's that corner's name? Drawing a blank. He gets to go up against Kendall Sheffield, who is not good, and then DJ Moore gets Isaiah Oliver, who is also not good. Robbie Anderson's kind of been the wide receiver 1 on this team, averaging 8.5 targets per game, but DJ Moore's still averaging 8 targets per game. I'm not really too much worried about DJ Moore at the moment. I think he'll have a good game, and this is a spot where he could totally blow up. Like Carolina stacks, like stacking both these guys with him. Then you have DeAndre Hopkins for the, I almost said Houston Texans. God, Bill O'Brien's an idiot. Going against the Arizona Cardinals. Plays for Arizona Cardinals going against the New York Jets. This game may not happen at the moment, but we'll see. He's in a good spot. He's going to get Pierre Desir, who's horrible, and he's averaging 11 targets per game, so in a good spot for DeAndre Hopkins. But I think that's it for the wide receivers. Let's finish this thing out with the tight ends. All right, let's close this out with the tight ends. Mark Andrews is going to be the first one we're going to talk about. Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to go up against Josh Bynes and Jermaine Pratt as the linebackers. Obviously, Lamar throwing the ball. It's going to be a positive matchup for him. I mean, we'll go just look at the overall matchups. I don't really feel like getting into all the individuals. Overall, it's going to be a positive match for Mark Andrews. They are favored in this game. Cincinnati's actually been solid against tight ends, 22nd ranked team against tight ends. And Andrews is averaging 5 targets per game, but we know he's getting all the high-scoring targets in the red zone and the end zone. So Mark Andrews is definitely someone in play. Totally same scoring a touchdown in this game. He's just always someone I like to get exposure to in tournaments. He's just a really good tight end overall and a really good spot. Eric Ebron is probably my favorite cheap tight. He is my favorite cheap tight end, but just like a great cheap play overall is Eric Ebron this week. He is overall a great positive matchup. They're going to be favored against Philly. It's a low-scoring game, but Philadelphia is the second worst team against tight ends. They've just been getting absolutely torched by tight ends. And not just talking about George Kittle last week. Like all year, they just have not looked good against tight ends. They cannot cover them at all. So Eric Ebron looks to be in a very good spot. He's averaging 4.66 targets per game. He's getting the red zone looks as well. So Eric Ebron definitely someone I want to get some exposure to. He's a great cash play. Maybe not as much in tournaments because I don't know how much the upside is. But for cash, his price is great. I want to go there in cash for sure. He is my cash tight end this week, 100%. Travis Kelce going up against Darren Waller's. That's weird. The Vegas Raiders. It's a 55 line. They're favored. Highest total game on a slate. The Raiders have actually been pretty good against tight ends, but it's going to be overall a great positive offense versus defensive matchup. When we go look at the usage, he's averaging 8.25 targets per game, getting usage in the red zone, of course, as always. So Travis Kelce, great play. He's always going to be a great play. I love him in tournaments, love him in stacks. Mahomes, if you want to go there in cash, I think it's fine, but you got to find some other value guys elsewhere. Darren Waller on the other side of that game. Not favored. You're going to be playing from behind. If you're playing Derek Carr stacks, I think this is probably the spot to go to with Darren Waller. He is going to be averaging 10 targets per game, just getting so much usage. He is the wide receiver 1 on this team. So Darren Waller, definitely someone I want to get some exposure to for sure. Dalton Schultz for the Dallas Cowboys is pretty cheap. I don't remember his exact price. He's $4,800. So I think he's a good value play. Going against the Giants, who've actually been pretty good against tight ends this year, but I'm not really too worried about this. The tight end DVP is something that's kind of a little sticky. I don't really always look into as much, unless you have the ones who are really bad against tight ends. Those are the ones where you're like, all right, so like the Eagles. But Dalton Schultz, in a game total that's pretty high, 54. They're favored. He's averaging 7 targets per game right now. He's getting a lot of usage in the end zone targets. So I think Dalton Schultz is a very good play for both tournaments and cash games. I think he's fine either way. Same thing with Evan Ingram, but my God, I hate Jason Garrett. I mean, I'm just a Giants fan. I already hated him in the first place because I hate the Cowboys, but like, God, he does not use Evan Ingram right. He's treating Evan Ingram as if he's freaking Jason Witten. Like, Evan Ingram is one of the most, the skilled and athletic tight ends in the entire league. Don't use him right. Now, I don't know if that necessarily matters against the Dallas Cowboys because their defense is garbage, and they're the fifth worst team against tight ends right now. And Evan Ingram is getting the usage. He's seen 7.5 targets per game, so I think it may not be that big of a deal, but God, I want him to change the way he goes. Evan Ingram probably not going to go there for cash, but for tournaments, definitely love going there. I think he has an explosion game coming from him. So yeah, Evan Ingram I'd like for sure. Hayden Hurst going against the Carolina Panthers. Overall, offensive versus defense matchup is positive. He's getting the 5.5 targets per game that I'd like to see, so definitely someone I want to get some exposure to in tournaments for sure. And then George Kittle has just been fantastic. Yeah, Miami's 30th best team against really the third best team against tight ends this year. I don't really care. It's George Kittle. Miami's defense overall is not good. They're favored in this game. He's averaging 10 targets per game in his 2 games he played. Last week he saw 15. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if he can see like 8 to 10, it's going to be really, really good for George Kittle. So definitely an absolute smash play there, I believe, as well. But I think that's really all I got to say on this video overall. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I tried to make it shorter. I think I did. I hope you guys stuck around to the end. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notification bell, leave a comment. It's just like one little click. All those things really help me out, help me grow a ton. Of course, if you want to sub to the Patreon, I'll put the links in the description below, as well as my social media. So, hope you guys have a great weekend of watching football. If you're interested in NASCAR, you should go check out those videos as well. But that's really all I got to say. Have a great weekend, guys.